MMA people, like it, love it, hate it, anything in between. Francis Ngannou just changed the game. Now, why did Francis Ngannou get released? Why did the UFC release him? Okay, why did he? Why did they choose to release him instead of negotiate terms? To one, there's only one reason, and there's only one reason at nothing else. That's it. The only reason is this. The reason that the UFC did not re-sign Francis Ngannou and negotiate those terms is to prolong the inevitable. Francis Ngannou just changed the game. Okay, just like I said before, this is going to be much closer. The contracts are going to get much closer to what you see in the NBA, where shorter contracts, more money. Shorter contracts, more money. Okay? And the UFC is trying to prevent that. Or there's going to be some type of health insurance that comes in. Francis Ngannou may, I don't know how you could be against what he's doing. If you are, that's fine. I've seen some posts here and there on Facebook and other mediums where they're saying, "Oh, Francis Ngannou was never a big draw. He doesn't have a great personality, and he's only had a couple title defenses." Kind of just really sounding really stupid, but trying to downplay Francis Ngannou and bash him, which that's fine. If that's what you want to do, okay, cool. But just understand what Francis Ngannou is doing. How did he even get to this point? Francis Ngannou wanted to fight John Jones years ago. He was calling for that fight years ago. He did not get it, if you remember. He was put on ice. They put Francis Ngannou on ice back when DC had the belt. All the way back then. This goes back. He was getting held on ice, and then he gets a fight. He runs through Rosenstrike, and he gets put back on ice. Okay? They were holding this man off. He could have fought through his contract long ago. All right? How much money has he lost out just by being in the UFC? All right? Now, moving to a little forward, moving along. Now, Francis Ngannou gets the belt back. Okay? He beats Stipe. Gets the belt back. Or gets the belt. He gets the belt. Wins the title against Stipe. Gets the belt. Now, after this, he defends the belt versus Cyril Gane on an injured knee. All right? He still defends his belt using offensive grappling, which we've never even seen him use before. So, he does that. All the while, like I said, he'd already been calling for John Jones. He didn't want to fight Cyril Gane in the first place. He wanted that fight to be John Jones. Okay? He ends up winning, whether I don't know. That's one of those things, or people say, oh, the UFC's trying to get me beat. Okay? That's one of those things, but it didn't work if that's what was going on. It didn't work. So he overcomes that, and now he's got this time frame, which I thought there was a chance for there to still be a fight made between Francis and John, but that was just used for him to heal up and negotiate and heal up, and we get here. So they've already gotten now Nate Diaz gone off, and they don't have anything to show for it other than art tops. Now Francis Ngannou. Nate Diaz has already talked about getting his own promotion. Francis Ngannou hinted at the possibility of getting his. Now, again, he also said that he could see himself returning to the UFC as well. But I'm seeing Francis Ngannou returning to the UFC would be under certain terms, such as Like I said, shorter contracts, more money. Let's say, for example, John Jones wins the UFC title, who John Jones has promised fans at least two more fights. So if John Jones fights Cyril Gane, wins the title, Francis fights Deontay Wilder, that gives both fighters something to occupy themselves with, and then it puts them in a resting period, and a return date will be established. Okay? But it puts them in similar proximity if things can move quickly enough for Francis. Because there's still just over 2 months before John even takes the octagon with Cyril Gane. Before they even share the octagon, that's still another two and a half, just under 2.5 months. So there's still time there also for Francis to figure out something as far as boxing goes. All right. So if both of these fighters, Francis and John Jones, can get their next fights finished up with around the same time, there's still a great chance that we could see that fight. But it will be, like Francis said, under his terms. The things in the UFC and MMA all around. Francis, we've seen it. We've seen it. Let's not pretend that these fighters aren't putting their life on the line out there. Let's not pretend that they're not out there trying to provide for their families. Let's not pretend that they're not doing that. Okay? So if they are able to make more money at another organization, then why the hell would we as what we call fans hold them um hold that against them? Why would we as what we call fans hold against a fighter them trying to make a better situation for them and their family? If they're not getting health care, why would we not want them to make as much money as possible? I mean, why would we not want them to make as much money so that they can pay for their injuries and stuff like that, and not go into debt, and actually be able to use their purse for something that they want to do instead of health bills, medical bills? Why would we not want that? So we have multiple examples of fighters leaving the UFC and going to smaller promotions and making more money than they would have made if they stayed in the UFC. And if you do anything but salute that, then you are not a fan. You're something else. I don't know what it is, but you're something else. All right. Now, Francis is not only advocating for better a better situation for all fighters and himself, but he's actually standing up and and letting go of what is the most respected MMA organization known today, the UFC. He's willing to step back from all of that and give up the title, the heavyweight champion of the world, known to be the baddest man on the planet who ever carries that UFC heavyweight title. He's willing to relinquish all of that to stand on something. If now that in itself, can you imagine giving up the title of the heavyweight champion title, just giving it up? So if I'm sure you couldn't. So if you were to do that, then something would have you'd have to really be serious about something. It'd have to be a really good reason for you to do that. So it would be wise of anyone to at least sit back and observe the entire situation and go into why Francis is doing what he's doing and the results of what's to come of this. Because, like I said, Francis Ngannou has changed the game, and this is only prolonging the inevitable. MMA House on MMA Block, and we in the middle of MMAville. And yes, we keep it real.